Warning: this video discusses a recent tragic event. Viewer may feel disturbed or suffer emotional damage. If you are the survivor of the Luna falling event, please do not watch this under emotional duress. Don't be too hard on yourself or fellow lunatics. This video is an educational content and not a financial advice. Okay, let's do this. This video will be made into 5 sections. You can use the timestamp to watch the relevant section. First section will be the summary of what I want to talk about. The second part will be the analogy of how I perceive the event as it turns out. Next is my experience and how I turned a massive loss into profit. Last but not least will be my perspective on the crash and some parting words. The TLDR. I would say a crypto Keter class event moonfall has occurred. I held both UST and Luna. I didn't short neither. I make profit doing arbitrage trade. The exact same process that UST uses to maintain its peg. The analogy. Let me tell you a tale of a ship that will never sink. A ship called OURS UST. Do Kwon, the architect of the ship, had come up with a neat little tool that will reward users of the ship to keep the ship afloat. That tool is called the arbitrager. With this machine, you can suck water in, and in return you will get a balloon. This system is decentralized, meaning everyone on the ship has to help maintain the ship. Now we ride the ship long and safely, and we were happy. Suddenly, someone forget to turn off their bathtub. The water filled the floor, and people were panicked. They fear the ship will sink. I grabbed the arbitrager and started sucking the water. And as expected, I got balloons. I started to float. I saw the water level lower, but then I see people start jumping ship out of pure terror. As I try to tell some of them to run the arbitrage, they blame me for filling the air with explosive gas. So I shut up and use the arbitrager for as long as I can. And as I float away from the ship, not sunk, but surrounded by the drowning and the drowned, as I float toward the shore and the bright sun bathed the sea red, I think I have to make a video about this. I want to talk about this failed attempt to make a decentralized stablecoin. Now let me tell you about my experience during the crash. I usually maintain a strict personal rule to never show my transaction, but in this case I think it is important to show a small amount so it is easier to see the picture. Now this is the order of things that happen. First, I wake up and realize UST is de-pegged. I was in denial. This is fine. I think the peg will return. This lasts for a few hours. And then I accept UST de-pegged mentally and realize that I have to take part in restoring the peg. After all, UST is a decentralized stablecoin, so I withdraw my de-pegged UST to Terra, get my Luna, and sell it back on Binance. And I repeat the process. I use the fund to buy more UST and get even more Luna. But after a few runs, Binance halt UST withdrawal. So I swapped all my UST to AVAX and sent it to multiple exchanges and continue doing arbitrage. This was my first transaction sent to OKX. It was a test transaction because I have never used OKX before. I wasn't even sure that OKX will allow UST withdrawal and Luna deposit. So I sent just a small amount, 13.69. You know, lucky number and noise. Then I swapped a small amount to test the arbitrage on that platform. And from 47 UST, which costs around $30 at the time, I get 1200 Luna, which can be sold for more than $72, double the investment. This was consistent in all exchanges except for Binance. So I keep doing it. I send even more funds using AVAX to many exchanges and keep doing the arbitrage. But then the network got congested. Each run took like 2 hours. This is when I calculate the rate of change of Luna price to see how much time I have before I start losing money. And for those of you who are studying calculus and wonder when in your life that you will need to calculate a rate of change of anything, this is the time I use it. The time that I want to predict the future and I really don't want to miss. And after a few runs, I can see that UST start to recover its peg on that exchange, but not on Binance. Because by then, Binance has halted deposit of Luna and withdrawal of UST, meaning they have completely broken the arbitrage mechanism. But I didn't worry too much. My goal then was to help the UST repeg on other exchanges that didn't break the arbitrage mechanism. But after a few more runs, I realized that my optimism was unfounded. After I see this video.
Well, the last 2 days have been among the most brutal I've seen in crypto. Anyone who's been in this space for a while will have some battle scars, but this is going to leave one hell of a mark. Now, I'm speaking as a holder of Luna and UST. I sold off a bit of UST last night, around the 90-cent mark, but like many others out there, I'm eating a loss and it does not taste good.
That was Guy from Coin Bureau. Guy is a good educator, he is knowledgeable, and if even him throw the towel and sell UST at a loss instead of running arbitrage, the morale has broken. The panic was too great. Despite that, I did not stop my arbitrage run. Yes, the price of Luna was still falling. But take a look at this screenshot from my phone. I took this one as I checked for the price before my last run. For a $100 investment, I can swap that into 315 million Luna, which can be sold for $27,000. I mean, Luna can keep falling for another 90% and I can still make a tenfold profit. And as I commit to my last run, a little bit of disaster struck. Terra blockchain halted block production to prevent all these excess Luna from being exploited. And in doing so, 2 of my 5 arbitrage runs were trashed. But even with only 3 runs complete, the profit margin far exceeds the loss I had to take for the 2 lost runs. From the fact that Terra blockchain can stop block production, I decided to stop my arbitrage run. I mean, most of the holder of UST has thrown the towel. Exchanges relentlessly disrupt arbitrage attempts, and even the blockchain itself has stopped block production. I accept that it is pointless. UST is lost. And that was how I made huge profit from the crash of Luna and UST. In total, I did 4 to 6 arbitrage runs per exchange, not counting the test transfers. Now I want to explain how all of this works. The first thing is, what is arbitrage trading? Arbitrage trading is simply a trade that you do when you find a price difference in 2 different markets. So you buy low from one market and sell high on another market. But then, who sets the price? And in this case, we will assume a full demand, which means everything that was listed for sale will be sold. There will always be a buyer. The difference is in price. Now, in this example, all the circles can be traded for the triangles. Since there are the equal amount of circles and triangle, one circle can be traded for one triangle. But what will happen if there are more triangles than circles? In this case, there are twice as many triangles for each circle. So if you have one circle, you can trade that for 2 triangles. It's like inflation, you know. There are more money floating around, while the production or the goods on the shelf remain the same. So if you have those triangles, you will feel like the price of the circle has increased. But if you are holding the circles, you will feel like the price of triangle has become cheaper. Now imagine this happens. Right now you might think this image represents Luna, but no, this is what happened to UST. This is why it lost its peg. Right now we know from Terra report that someone sold a huge amount of UST on Curve Finance and on exchanges at almost the same time, and that kicked the UST out of peg. It wasn't much, but it was enough to cause fear for the average UST holder to sell the UST at a loss instead of doing arbitrage. The panic was on. Now I want to point out that UST is actually quite similar to any currency. I mean, what is the value of a US dollar? For simplicity, I will explain it using gold standard. But please keep in mind that the current US dollar is not on gold standard. Anyway, let's say it's gold standard. $1 bill represents $1 of gold, which theoretically you can exchange that from US Treasury. The gold is called the reserve. So basically, a currency is a bill that you can charge the issuer to pay you with whatever they have in the reserve for the value of the bill. And in the case of the UST, you cannot charge them for gold because they did not hold gold in reserve. You can, however, charge them for Luna, and this is how the entire arbitrage strategy works. This is how UST maintains its peg at the expense of Luna. Some people might worry about the price of Luna, but in my view, the worst case is Luna will be another stablecoin pegged to Shiba Inu. But hey, that's me. And most people are not me. So when they see Luna price fall quickly, they flee. And the people who could have done arbitrage were too fearful to do so. And the whole system collapsed. Now, this is my view on the crash. First, I think the mechanism works, but it was too naive. It places too much trust on people whom has proven unreliable. The next point is that the mechanism has too many points of failure. As I said, in my experience, the biggest issue for me was the on and off ramp from exchanges. I think the UST is another failed attempt at decentralized stablecoin, but it will not be the last. UST may have failed, but the journey in search of a decentralized stablecoin, a currency that we do not have to rely on a single entity to maintain its value, is still ongoing. It may not get there in a few years, but we will get there eventually. And one last thing is I realized my mistake. If you have watched my content before, you may notice that I used to make quite a number of educational content. That was from the time I taught in college. But it has been a long time. I now run a few businesses, and in business, we don't usually share our knowledge. It makes competition more difficult. But from this crash, as I talk to more and more people, I realize how devastating the crash has been for them, how their entire life saving was wiped out in one day. And I feel this kind of survival guilt. And usually when we win in a trade, we tend to brag a bit, trash talk our friends. This time though, it feels different. I feel almost guilty to talk about it. I can almost see the despair in their eyes. I can hear it in their voice. And you know what is the most painful thing for me? It is that when I talk about it, more than half of them didn't know about arbitrage. And that's horrified me. I know knowledge is power, but I didn't know that lack of knowledge could be such a death trap. Had they known, they would have done something different, and they would not have found themselves in this predicament they are in. And that was also my mistake. I realized how important it is to share knowledge. And I will make that mistake no more. I plan to take my time, now that I have time from all the profit I gained from this crash, to make educational content, probably based on crypto and investment in general, so that when the next crash comes, which it will come, I would not have to drink the champagne alone. Well, as you can see from my video list, I haven't done any video in a long time. This video itself is pretty scuffed, but if you think an educational content from me will be useful to you, please subscribe. And if you are still watching, I think I deserve a like too. I am not going to leave my job. I can't really see myself retire early. Life will be very boring. But from all those arbitrage runs, I think I can afford a few hours of work a day. I have no solid plan or schedule yet, so you might want to click the bell icon too. And that will be it for today. See you guys later. Bye.